13 years have passed since two planes crashed into the Twin Towers in New York City on September 11, 2001. As they do each year, New Yorkers gather to remember the tragedy and honor the 3,000 civilians, policemen, firefighters, and medics who have died in the attacks.
We crashed! The other trade center's down. It's down.
Over a decade later, the city that seemed invincible until then still carries the trauma of that day. A day that has undoubtedly marked a turning point for the United States and for the world, especially today as the threat of terrorism seemed to have reached new heights. Our focus this week is on New York. Hello and welcome to our focus on New York. The New York City Fire Department suffered significant casualties in the September 11th attacks, with a total of 343 personnel killed. Our first guest is Nathan Rothschild, a retired firefighter who took part in the rescue and recovery efforts on one of the deadliest terror attacks in history. Hey Nathan, and thank you for joining us. I see you wearing your uniform. Once a firefighter, always a firefighter.
Yes, that's what we believe.
You have been living in New York your entire lifetime. What has changed in the city after that day?
I think before 9/11, the New Yorkers always believed they were invincible. Maybe they could get a little hurt here or there, but they finally realized that New York was a place that unfortunately could receive an attack like anywhere else in the world, and that has changed their entire physique for personal people, and as well as the community, police, fire, everybody has a different look at life now.
Do you still remember the sequence of events when you arrived on the scene and started to take action?
Yes, sure. On that day, my office was on the 70th floor of the Empire State Building. I looked out the window and I saw what looked like a plane was coming towards one of the buildings. And in fact, that's what it was. I saw that plane hit. I figured that this is going to be a tremendous crisis. I ran down to my car, which was in a parking lot, jumped in my car, drove as close as I could, and I ran right onto the scene. And sure enough, it was a plane that had hit a building, and there were a lot of people going all over the place, and it was really a scene of chaos. One of the first mistakes I think that were made was that they emptied out, everybody had gone out of building 1 and building 2, and unfortunately what they did was when they saw it was building 1 that was hit, they decided that they could send everybody back up to the other building. And unfortunately that caused a lot of casualties. That was the first of many mistakes of that day, although there was some tremendous rescues too. But it taught us now here in New York that we really have to practice and be ready for anything that could happen.
And 13 years after that awful day, has your perspective about 9/11 events and the aftermath changed in some way?
I always believed, I've come to Israel many times, I've admired the fire department, I've worked with them there, and at the end of the day, I think that we've become complacent again. Time has healed all wounds, and I think once again, we're not as vigilant as we used to be, and I think that that's a problem.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Nathan. We really appreciate your being with us.
No problem. Have a very good day, man. Thank you.
Apparently, there were dark days in the past when the state of New York actually needed to promote tourism. For this reason, back in 1977, the famous logo, "I Love New York," was first used. Now it appears on mugs, shirts, and basically any souvenir that can fit the design. The brilliant mind behind it is an 85-year-old graphic designer named Milton Glaser, and he's joining us now from the Big Apple. Hello, Milton. Thank you for being with us.
Oh, glad to be with you.
When exactly did it occur to you that you need to invent the logo for the capital of the world?
I don't think that's quite occurred to me yet. All I knew was that I had to invent something for the good of the city, which I did in 1977. That's an awful long time ago.
So what were your guiding lines where you were working on this project back then?
Well, what was going on, if you remember, you probably don't remember, you're too young, but at that time, the city was in very bad shape, and people were moving out and fearing being here and worrying about crime on the streets, and it was a great time to buy an apartment in New York. But aside from that, there were very few other benefits. And the state realized that it was losing not only money, but citizens, and it was losing the reputation of the city, and it wanted to do something vigorous to basically counter that loss. And so they began a campaign, and it turned out to be the I Love New York campaign. And they came to me and asked me to symbolize that visually, that idea, I Love New York, in some way that would be, I assumed, attractive and interesting, the ways you would do any other trademark or identity for any other product.
So what made it so catchy?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the great mystery of why you're attracted to some things and not to others is something that I've been puzzled about all my life.
After the 9/11 events, you have published a new version of this logo saying, I love New York more than ever. Was this your personal feeling on that day?
It was my personal feeling to a large extent, but I also realized that I reflected the mood of the city. It's like you have a relative that you like, and then they suddenly get sick, and you go visit them in the hospital, and you say to yourself, I didn't realize how much I loved that person. And all of us who were living in the city at that time suddenly realized that we loved the city more than we could have imagined because it had suddenly become vulnerable.
You're 85-year-old and still working. That's very, very impressive. Are you thinking about retirement?
You know, I hope you understand that retirement is a conspiracy, that there's no such thing as retirement. It was really institutionalized when there were too many old people in the workforce and generations of young people who couldn't find jobs. And the government said, listen, you know what we should do? We should invent this thing called retirement, get rid of all the old folks, and hire the young folks at lower salaries. That is the origin of retirement, and I don't want to be susceptible to that plan.
You know what? I couldn't agree with you more, although I have some more years until the age of my retirement or non-retirement.
Don't even think of it. Don't think of it.
All right,
There's
all right.
no such thing.
Okay, I won't retire. Milton, thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you very much.
They say what happens in Vegas should stay in Vegas, but the Malaysian conglomerate Genting Group does not seem to agree. The company is seeking to open an over-the-top casino complex in the forests of upstate New York. Local residents are worried that the $1.5 billion project would cause environmental damage to the area. After more than 2 decades of fighting over the issue, a gay group will march for the first time in the next annual St. Patrick's Day parade in New York City. The parade committee made the decision last week, a gesture of goodwill, they said, in order to keep the parade above politics. The city that never sleeps celebrated its 350th birthday last week. It had officially been renamed New York City from its original name, New Amsterdam, on September 8, 1664, when English soldiers took control of it from the Dutch. The birthday was described by many as an opportunity to remember that since it was born, New York City helped shape American culture. New York City hosted Fashion Week this month, as it does every year. Some 300 top designers from Oscar de la Renta and Perenza Scholler to Ralph Lauren and Marc Jacobs displayed their lines for Spring-Summer 2015. The event attracted some 100,000 people to the Big Apple. The award-winning musical The Lion King celebrated its 7,000th performance in New York City this week, making it the 4th longest-running show in Broadway history. The only other shows to have hit that milestone are Phantom of the Opera, Cats, and the current revival of Chicago.
The world's first ever Fashion Week was held in New York in 1943. However, back then, New York wasn't the top destination of the fashion industry. The event was designed to draw attention away from French fashion during World War II, when fashion industry insiders were unable to travel to Paris. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to travel to New York last week and observe the latest trends on the runway shows, and we're very lucky to have here with us in the studio Maya Kramer to keep us all updated. So, hey Maya,
Hey.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Besides World War II, what else turned New York into such a global fashion capital?
Well, I mean, New York, if you've ever been there, just walking the streets, the smells, the people, the fashion, the energy, the 24/7, the colors, everything that goes on there, it gives you a rush and it's really inspiring. And as you said, after World War II, New York attracted a lot of authors, philosophers, a lot of creative people. Hence, opening schools, art and design schools, the best ones in the world,
that's a
are
good
in New
point.
York. Yeah, and that attracts the best designers to New York. And another special thing about New York is that people come from all over the world, as I said. So, you know, we have Alexander Wang, who's Chinese descent, Eli Tahari, who's Israeli, South American, Oscar de la Renta. So that makes it really special.
That's a very interesting point, but what is actually the significance of the Fashion Week for the fashion industry? I mean, why is it such a big deal?
Well, God, you're asking somebody who lives and breathes fashion. But basically, Fashion Week gives a stage to designers to showcase their art. I mean, they're showing the world what we'll be wearing on the streets. So basically what happens is people come and see these trends, and then the stores translate it to stores that we would shop at and that we could afford, like Zara, Mango, Forever 21, H&M. Right. They all take these trends and bring it into their stores, and then we would wear them. Another really special thing is that it's a haven for networking. I mean, there's business going on there.
That's for sure.
For 30 days, there's journalists, stylists, bloggers, fashion editors, all in one place. So it's a great place to mingle and make connections.
Paradise.
Yes.
So tell me, what am I going to wear next season? What's the upcoming trend?
Oh, honey, white on white on white on
For
white.
the winter?
No, this is spring, summer 2015.
Okay.
We're always showing ahead of time.
All right, I'm not updated.
That's okay.
Sorry.
So basically, you know, last summer, it was white pieces. Now it's white tops with white trousers, white shoes, and white liner in one look. Another trend that we'll be seeing are yellows. You know, summer, yellow is a great color for summer.
Somebody has to get a nice tan before.
Yes. Michael Kors, Ralph Lauren, all brought in these really bright colors, which makes it really fun to wear in the summer. Another big trend is florals.
Oh, I see you're updated.
I'm wearing the florals. Now, florals is always in, right? I mean, every spring, every summer, we talk about florals, but this time they're bigger, they're bolder, they're brighter, they're fresher, kind of like the florals I have on my dress.
That's a very good example.
Thanks. The next trend is black and white. And I just want to add, unfortunately for some, crop tops are still not out. So we're going to be seeing a lot of the stomachs again. And yes, and another huge trend is the no makeup.
I don't know if I can go with this.
Marc Jacobs showed, he showcased his designs.
But it's
his
good
models
for the
had
Mediterranean weather.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Maya. I will
you.
be following the latest trends next season, not this winter. So white is for next year.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Our next guest, Nitzan Peled, usually brings us the most weird and interesting stories from the social media. When it comes to New Yorkers, it seems that the ones without a weird story are the abnormal ones. So, Nitzan, I'm wondering, what do you have for us today?
Hi, Tal. We have some stuff from Manhattan, but we'll start with George Washington. As you know, he was one of the most important political figures in United States history.
Of course.
And this is why I guess it comes with no surprise that the George Washington University at Washington, D.C. is one of the most politically active schools in all of America. But still, take a look at this video that went viral on the web, where a few days before the last 9/11, students from George Washington University were being asked 3 questions. One about 9/11, one about the beheading of American journalists by ISIS, and one about the celebrity nude pictures scandal. The results of the survey were not too politically correct.
So next week marks an anniversary of a major national event. Do you know what that is?
Next week? No.
Thanksgiving? No, it's September 11th. Have you heard about ISIS at all? Do you know what it is? So have you heard about 2 American journalists being beheaded?
It starts with a J,
I know this.
It starts with a J.
Yeah,
One of them, yes.
One of them? John. I'm just going to guess John.
God, I know one named Steven something. I literally just should have known it.
I couldn't give a name on the journalist.
Nitzan, I think that some ISIS member would have been pretty mad if they watched this video.
But when they asked them about the nude scandal pictures, they all knew, 29 of the 30 people that were being asked knew at least one of the celebrities. So that's what's on the news, I guess. But we're going to stay with the business of people saying dumb stuff, but move directly to New York, where the Fashion Week attracted many fashionistas to Manhattan, and Jimmy Kimmel, the American talk show host, jumped on the opportunity to make some people look silly. So he sent his Lie Witness News team to ask them some completely made-up questions about fashion.
I'm here for Fashion Week, all the way from Atlanta.
Well, let me ask you about some of the lesser-known designers. Chandler Bing, have you heard?
Chandler Bing, I have heard of. And you know what, I do follow.
Yeah.
It is all about social media as well, and so I really follow the brand as well.
What about Betsy Ross? Have you heard of Betsy Ross?
Yes, I love it.
Love Betsy Ross?
Yeah.
The bright colors, the primary colors?
Yes, it's awesome the way it plays with the colors and the textures and now with the trends that it's everything about lines, about the squares, about triangles.
What about Bartles and James?
Oh, great as well.
Fantastic, right?
Super, yeah.
It's just sparkling and effervescent.
Oh, absolutely. Very elegant, very stylish.
Refreshing, you would say?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen that?
Well, yeah, I saw it.
And
It was on Instagram everywhere.
What about Phil Robertson?
Phil Robertson, you know what, is beyond one of my favorites as well.
He really burst onto the scene a few years ago.
Yeah, he's following a legacy.
They just look straight at the camera and lie.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's crazy.
I think you're wearing Chandler Bing today, aren't you?
It's Monica or Joey's.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorites.
Yeah, of course. That's all we have time for today. Be sure to join us again next week. And of course, a new week means a new country.